to another episode where we will be racing in Le Mans Ultimate. So we are going to be racing at Sebring this time versus at Spa, and we're going to be in the LMP2 vehicles. These are personally one of my favorites to drive. They're a great combination of a challenge, but they're extremely rewarding once you get it right. And unfortunately, things appear to be going quite well for me, but as you will see in the clips in the two races, I fumble everything. I fumble it. So I hope you get a lot of satisfaction out of this video, and if you do enjoy it, please like and please subscribe. Thank you, and enjoy the video. Alrighty, again, welcome to this video, and we are at Sebring now this time. So we'll be driving the LMP2s. It's a much more challenging car to drive compared to the GT3s. They're very prone to snap oversteer or under the brake if you're not careful. I think the biggest difference with these cars, other than the obvious of the speed and the aerodynamics, but when you get into the braking with the GT3 cars, number one, you have the ABS to rely on and lean on, and it gets you out of a lot of trouble. You brake enough to where you're just getting into the ABS, but when it comes to racing the LMP2s, it's quite a different story. It's very peaky when you're at very high speeds and you have a lot of aerodynamic load. So you're going to go wham onto the brakes as hard as you can, and then as you slow down and that aerodynamic load decreases, you're going to slowly trail off. It's quite a different touch, but eventually you get used to it, and it is quite satisfying. So going into qualifying here, this was quite a satisfying round, and it was very competitive and very fun. So this is our first official lap after we got our tires a little bit warm. Temperatures were not optimal, so grip levels were slightly better, but couldn't quite push it to 100%, but we could get a decent lap time posted. So going through here into the straight, Sebring is quite a challenge. I wouldn't say the corners are per se extremely technical, challenging, fancy, or anything like that. But the big difference with Sebring is, number one, you have absolutely no camber on any of these corners, so you get no load or assistance in that way. And then secondly, it is an extremely bumpy track. When you have all these bumps, you have to be extremely careful, especially in the low-speed corners with your throttle application. Otherwise, you're just going to get snap oversteer, and you're just going to completely lose your rear end. With the LMP2s as well, if you spin out, it is absolutely detrimental to your race. You're going to get flat spots, and one of the things that I love about Le Mans Ultimate, and I haven't experienced in other sims, when you do spin out and get those flat spots, you can feel it in the steering wheel. It vibrates quite madly depending on how bad of a flat spot it is, but it has varying degrees. And I mean, number one, it is quite obnoxious to drive when you're going at super high speeds. And then secondly, especially if you get a flat spot in the rear tires, you are going to have a very difficult time keeping the rear end nice and planted, so you're at a much higher probability of spinning out. So as you can see, our first official lap time, we got a 150.2, not too terrible. That's some pretty decent pace. So we're currently in P5 as it stands. Burde, he posted quite an exceptional lap time. 148.6 off the gate off his first lap. That's pretty impressive. This is top split, if I did not mention earlier. So the races, or the racers, I should say, are very competitive. They've got quick pace, so I knew this was going to be a good race going into it. We're already up a second on our second attempt. Tire's a little bit warmer, so I know I can confidently push the car a little bit more into these high-speed corners. And we're already getting into Sector 3. Yeah, this last bit is a little bit challenging. You got to be wham on the brakes, but then trail off, pitch it in, hit the curb, cut it back in, ride the curb again, and run it out wide. You know, this varies. In this game, you can't go all the way past the white line on the left to set yourself up for a better exit for the back straight. But I know in other games that the track limits allow you to go way outside, but in this game I believe that is not the case. I'll have to test these out. The last corner is quite a challenging just simply because of the bumps. I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make here is they apply too much brake pressure. They get all the weight on the front of the car, and it really unsettles it when it goes over these rough bumps. So going like 50-60% brake pressure is ideal. So this is the best lap that I had, I believe. So going through the S's here, you can see we're pushing it, getting out nice and wide onto the curbing, using all of the track that we possibly can. Coming down the back straight, we're already up half a second, which is quite exceptional. Right about the 400 meter, we wham on the brakes, trail off, try to pitch it in. I missed my apex a little bit. Less than ideal, but nonetheless, it was not too terrible. We're still maintaining a half a second delta. Same story, I was braking just a little bit after the 400 meter board mark there. Missed the apex a little bit again, but still not too terrible. Gained about a tenth of a second. You want to do about 60-70% brake flop or brake pressure going through this section and then trailing off, and then making sure you're careful on the throttle as you're exiting out of the chain of corners. 300 board mark, again, as I said, you got to make sure you hit the curbs there, but without hitting track limits. Hit the curb, go out wide. Could have gone through that with a little bit more speed, but nonetheless, it's a pretty significant improvement. So here is the tricky part. I don't know necessarily if I like braking at the 50 meter. I did in this case, but I think it's better to go maybe between the 50 and the 100 meter board. I think it just sets you up for a better exit, because if you go at the 50 meter board and you don't get your braking just right, you're going to end up going too wide and you're not going to maximize the amount of speed. So while I was extremely satisfied with that result, ended up qualifying in P3, so I was very, very happy with that. The field was quite competitive. So going into turn 1, I just needed to be cautious, and I was hoping no one was going to rear end me. P1 is quite cautious as he has the inside, which is honestly an unfortunate position to be in a starting grid. I go on and take the inside. He backs out. I almost lose it, and go off track for a brief moment, but I was luckily able to rejoin relatively safely, still maintaining my position. Getting a little bit of the slipstream going down the straight and looking for my braking point, and unfortunately I forgot to remember that my tires were not at optimal temperatures. I brake a little late. I try to rejoin, and I made contact with P4. He hits me in the rear end. I'm not sure if my rejoin was bad. I don't think it was unreasonable, maybe not the best, but I think P4 just completely disregarded that I was even there. He was just holding his typical racing line like he would, and just said, screw me, to hell with me, I'm just going to run you off, I don't care. So while I am obviously partially at fault because I got that braking point wrong and I wasn't aware of everything as far as my tire temperatures, but it's an unfortunate result. Spun out, and here we are. Now we're back at the back of the pack. Now we have a lot of making up to do. I was quite frustrated, especially given the results with qualifying. That was really fun and competitive, and I was in P3, pole position, hoping to finish in the top 3, maybe P1. But I wasn't going to give up, because one of the things with the LMPs, they're much trickier vehicles to drive. With the GT3s, they're much more entry level, but with the LMP, people are more than likely going to spin out. It requires a lot more skill. And as you can see, I've already gained 2 positions simply from people making silly mistakes. So this is working to my benefit. Now, the frustrating thing, this is technically multi-class, so we have LMP3s. They're much slower on the straightaways, not quite as much aerodynamic grip and just handling speed. So I've got to fight through some of these benchmarkers. And see one of them spins out there on the left. That's a very common place where people apply too much throttle and they spin out. Just being really cautious. Going into this corner, making sure I'm not doing anything reckless, cutting into the inside where they could turn into me. I'm going to be able to easily overtake them on the straightaways, so just trying to be smart with my strategy overall. Didn't want to take the inside again, but that guy goes wide, and they're going to take the inside on the following corner, so I'm going to hang out wide, but I had to be cautious. The guy had spun out on the outside, so I had to finagle my way in between the cars. But we made it through that safely, and it looks like we are through the LMP3 pack, so now it's just a matter of catching up to the people in P17 and 16. Eventually, they do spin out, I believe, so I was able to catch up to them no problem. At this point, I'm just trying to forget the mistakes that I had made and get into a nice rhythm, a solid pace. And so here we go. Moved up one more position due to a mistake by Nascimento, I believe. I hope I'm not butchering his last name. So moving up the grid slowly but surely, and we're relatively early in the race, only 5 minutes into a 30-minute race. And P16 and 15 are not too far away at all. They're battling it out, so they're going to be slowing each other down, hopefully, and that'll present an opportunity for me to get by them, as I clearly have a lot more pace. When I'm looking at the lap times, I seem to be consistently, well, I shouldn't say at this point in the race because there was one by mistake, and then I had to fight the benchmarkers, but eventually down the road, I was able to start posting like 149 pace, whereas a lot of people were posting 150s, which is pretty solid when you consider the fuel load. No, here we go again. So we had somebody else spin out. So looks like we gained another position up into P16, and then we have another person coming out of the pits, rejoining the track. Got to watch out for this, but it wasn't too bad. He was joining safely. And then again, another person spun out, and we have a wreck. Moved up to another 2 positions. See, you can just capitalize on people's silly mistakes all the time, as long as you remain consistent. So now that just leaves us with Tide. Tide's about half a second in front of us, and he has a pretty good turn 1, not too terrible. But I think a lot of people make mistakes here coming into turn 2 there, and that's a really tricky one. I think... Oh, and I completely forgot. I spun out again here, and that's just going to make my flat spot even worse. At this point, I kind of ruined my own race. Nonetheless, I was still determined to get back in the fight. But back to what I was saying, in turn 2, there's a really weird bump, and it's a very slow speed left-hander. And I think a lot of people, what happens, why they spin out there is they trail brake, but then they apply no throttle until they get their car rotated. But the problem with that, there's like this odd bump where it's actually more ideal to apply slight throttle application. And if you're able to do that, you come out of the corner much more stable, and you run a much lower risk of oversteer and completely losing the car. I think that's a really good corner for, especially when you're up against more inexperienced drivers. You can capitalize on that opportunity within that sector. So I have to keep in mind my flat spot is even worse now. On the rear tires, I have a pretty severe tire wear, and as you can see, I spin out again, and it just is a lot worse. So Moral of the story, I finished that race, but I ended up having to pit and put on the used tires from qualifying because they were much better. Oddly, I ended up finishing P13, but I just wanted to move on, given I completely squandered an opportunity where I was in P3, could have been P1 based off of my pace, and I just wasn't consistent. But that's racing, that's how it is. Sometimes you're gonna just nail it every single time, and there's gonna be other situations where you're gonna make a silly mistake and it ruins the race for you. That's just the way it is, but that's what's exciting about it. It requires absolute perfection in order to get to the top of the grid. So this is the best lap in the qualifying session for the second race, and my pace was not as good as the previous qualifying session in the last race, but it's still quite solid. So right now we are sitting at P2 with the previous lap. Our best is a 149.7. You can see our delta is already over 3/4 of a second, pushing up towards a second. I was pretty happy with the pace, I would say, but I wasn't thrilled. I just felt like I was really on it in the first session. But going into this, I was trying to change my mindset and remaining more consistent, trying not to make silly mistakes, and whatever you feel like your limit is, just pull back a hair, because you have a 30-minute race, a lot can happen, and it's all about consistency. Name of the game, have overall the highest average or the lowest average lap times possible. You can post fastest lap times anytime in the world and just hot lap, but again, if you're making mistakes left and right, in the end, it doesn't matter. So this will be our best lap there. We scored P2, which is great. Gordon had some pretty good pace. He got in the 147s, and he got P1. But luckily for us, P2 is actually a much better position on this track, at least in my mind. You have the outside, so in case there's absolute turn one carnage, you're able to avoid some of the chaos. But oddly, Gordon gets an awful start. He just must have had a delayed reaction time. And going into turn one, I get way ahead of him, but he oddly misses his braking point and completely rear ends me. But no harm, no foul. Nothing too terrible came out of it. So going into the race, just getting settled in and being reminded to brake a little bit earlier. The tire temperatures are not quite optimal. They're still a little cold. I'm not sure what Le Mans Ultimate is. I think it's quite odd that when you do qualifying and you start from the pits, you have stone cold tires, but then when you're starting the race, obviously you're not doing a whole out lap, but you're starting maybe half a mile or so before the start of the track. I guess maybe the tire temperatures are not stone cold when you start the race, but they must simulate that or assume that you went out there and did a warm-up lap, and hence they give you a little bit higher tire temperatures. So you don't have to be as skeptical early on your first lap when you start the race, but you still have to be mindful of it. It's still not optimal tire temperatures, and you're not going to be able to push it to the limit like you normally would. So you can see here we're settling in to the race, just finding our pace. After one lap here, our tire temperatures should be right in the beginning ranges of optimal temperatures. Finding our pace, we can see Nascimento, he's in this second race again, so going to be competing against him, and he's got a lot better pace compared to the last race. And then obviously Gordon, we know he can post some pretty serious lap times. So these first couple laps, it's pretty close, neck and neck, where he's maintaining his gap to me about 1.5 seconds for quite a few laps. So I knew there was going to be pressure to remain consistent. I had a little bit of room for error, but then again, don't want to squander an opportunity off a silly mistake. but they could easily also make a mistake and give myself even more breathing room. Nonetheless, just got to focus ahead, zone in, get into the track, and just do my thing. Just race my race, drive my lines, know my braking points, my turn-in points, and all my references. It's quite easy when you get a big lead. I think that's where you can make mistakes. You get a little too complacent and you relax too much, and you got to remain focused for as long as you can. And eventually I find myself getting into a little bit of a flow state. I get eventually to a 149 lap time after this lap. Really close to getting in the 148s, which is great with a full fuel load. So if you think, a lot of people when they get into sim racing, they don't realize this, but especially if you get into games like Le Mans Ultimate, Assetto Corsa, your fuel load can have quite a substantial impact on your tire wear, your lap times. So just to put this into perspective, I believe 1 gallon of fuel is like 8 1/3 of a pound. So, imagine, like, for example, right here, that's, I had roughly 12 gallons, more than 12 gallons. That's over 100 pounds added to a car. I mean, imagine lugging a 100-pound dumbbell around with you all the time. As your race progresses and your car gets lighter and lighter, you're able to extract just a little bit more performance. You're able to brake just a hair later. You're able to turn in just a little bit later, a little bit earlier than you would. So do not underestimate getting your fuel levels right. It can really help you extract the extra performance. So we jumped ahead here to the 4th lap. And as you can see, we're still in the lead. The deltas are still the same. Nascimento and Gordon are maintaining their pace. So competitive. And like I said, I'm really just getting into the groove of this race. Feeling quite confident. It's been a while since I have gotten a podium. Or actually not too far ago. Actually, before I started this channel, I got a podium at... I believe it was Imola. It was a gold race at Imola, a longer format, lower split because I had made quite a few errors and had some bad races where I did not finish. But nonetheless, any podium is quite satisfying to get. So it looks like Nascimento makes quite a fatal error, and he drops back down to P3, and now he's closer to the P4 delta. So now we really just have to worry about Gordon. He's still 3 seconds behind, so I technically do have a little bit more breathing room, but like I said, we know he has the pace. He had a much faster qualifying time than us, so if he gets into his groove, things could present to be much more challenging for us down the road. So getting into lap 5, I'm really starting to feel it. Going into turn 2, again, applying that light throttle. As you can see, it's like maybe 30% throttle once you get your car rotated, just to help you stabilize the car. So, hey, this is the unfortunate part, ladies and gentlemen. I think at this point I realized I was in a flow state, and sometimes when you realize you're in that flow state, you lose your focus, and as you can see, I did not trail brake properly. My rear's locked up, and I spun out, and I thought I had given enough throttle once I had spun out, and I just hit the barrier, and now I have front bumper damage, so not ideal. I'm quite upset. I've squandered 2 opportunities where, again, I could have been on pole or first place. And here we go. We're dropping back. But at least this time, the damage is not as severe. So we're down into P11, and F Games is the gentleman that's ahead of us. I don't know if that's meant to stand for something or if he hates video games, racing. I don't get that, but nonetheless, we must terrify him. He just completely gives up once we catch up to him and just lets us by. So now F Games is behind us. We have dealt with him. Our next benchmarker, Pereira, I hope I'm saying that right, about 5 seconds, so assuming he remains consistent with his lap times, it's going to probably take a lap or two before we can catch up to him. As you can see, he had a really bad lap, and I spun out, so I get a 2:16, but based off of him getting 152s, I'm probably going to be at least 2 seconds faster on average. And as you can see, well, this is actually P19 looking ahead. I'm sorry. He just completely locks up, and he's just all over the track. Must be a beginner racer. Moving further ahead, after we get that benchmarker, as you can see, we're about 3.5 seconds away from P9. Making a little bit of headway. Again, I'm really conscious coming into this corner to brake earlier so I don't lock up my rear brakes and spin out like I did last time. I was really trying to be cognizant of that, as it's an easy place to make the mistake. But that's just one of the biggest things with these LMPs, is learning the braking. But I mean, once you get it, it is so satisfying, and the performance you can extract out of these is absolutely insane. I know the hypercars are obviously much faster in a straight line, and they technically have, I don't know, I wouldn't say like their cornering speed is that much better than the LMP2s. It's more the straight line speed, because they have the hybrid systems and much more complicated brake bias systems that you have to manage and deal with. But I haven't driven those a lot. I don't have a lot of experience with them, and I do find them tricky to drive. But the LMPs, it comes a little bit more naturally to me for whatever reason. I think it's a really good balance between getting the extreme performance that you would kind of get in the hypercars, but it's just a little bit more approachable, and I just like the way the cars rotate. But yeah, I think this is some of the best racing you could possibly have in Le Mans Ultimate. The GT3s are great. I would love to get more into the hypercars and learn them, but that's going to be a whole process, because every time I hop into them, I just struggle like crazy. So as you can see, we actually moved up into P9. There was somebody who spun out and hit the wall into the last turn. And as you can see, tank. What is that? FT tank. Is that like foot tank? Or is FT supposed to stand for something? I don't know. We'll just call him foot tank. So foot tank spins out. He makes a mistake, and I almost made a fatal error, but luckily I caught myself. And instead of trying to rotate the car and turn it, I just decided to go off the track and go on the runaway and just rejoin. So foot tank is going to get ahead of me again, so now we're going to be battling with him. We got an LMP3 here in the mix that we got to watch out for. He's going to hold the inside line, so I'm going to go out onto the outside and overtake him. And now we're right on foot tank's back. So not quite close enough to get into the draft, but we should be able to get into the draft into the last straightaway with him. More than likely, he's going to squander this braking zone. I'm going to come through this a lot faster. Yeah, he just doesn't utilize all the track. And here we are. We're within the slipstream, so we should be able to gain a little bit on him. Again, making sure we are not braking too hard into the last corner, about 60%, and you can see here he gets a little bit of a lockup, so that slows him down a little bit. We're getting a little bit closer to him, and we should be able to get right side by side with him once we're getting into turn 2. And he goes into the turn 1 a little too slow, as we picked up another 10th on him there. And he's turning in a little too early, I think, there. And we able to get another 10th. And we have somebody spinning out here, so now we are up into P8. I mean, you can see this is a common theme. That is a very common occurrence for people to spin out this corner. I'm going to take the inside here. He's not even trying to defend, and he just completely backs out of it. So he stays completely wide, and now we are through to P7. Now, we just got to get in a flow because P6 is 8.5 seconds ahead. But Foot Tank is not going to back down. He is right on our tail, only half a second, so he's definitely going to be able to stay in the slipstream. So if he's able to find some pace in these corners and remain consistent, he's going to be able to stay with me. So that could present a challenge. So it's really up to me to build a gap so I don't have to spend time fighting him. Now, as you can see here, we skip ahead. Foot Tank is still right on our butt, and I did make an error going into that same corner again where I'd spun out earlier. But we got a yellow flag here, and it looks like Kuskik had spun out, and he's only a second. And oh, there we go. So now we're up into P6, and his race is obviously done. He's just going to have completely worn out tires, multiple flat spots. There's just not a chance he's going to be able to come back in this race without pitting and putting on the used tires from qualifying, if he already hasn't. But he was up there pretty high in P4, so he has that ability to get those tires if he needs to, just to finish the race and gain some safety rating. So now we're up a little bit on Foot Tank, about 3/4 of a second, and hoping he makes a mistake here on the last corner. I keep it a little bit tighter and make a good exit. And another challenging part for me is I have front and rear bumper damage, and that's going to affect my straight line speed as well as just my aerodynamic balance. So this was also presenting a challenge in of itself going into this race. But as you can see down the road, Foot Tank has dropped, but once again, we make a fatal error. We lock up the rears, and Foot Tank is now ahead of us. He is our nemesis, essentially, for this race. But he's pretty far ahead now, which is very unfortunate. Race at this point is basically over, and there's really nothing. Well, I shouldn't say it's over. I mean, there's still 8 minutes, but it's going to require Foot Tank to make a mistake for me to gain P6 back. So at this point, just finish the race, drive under, even more so under my limits now that I know I'm going to have more of a flat spot. I mean, I can feel it in my wheel at this point. It's vibrating like crazy. I'm just going to have less traction. So realistically, we're going to finish P7 this race unless somebody, again, makes a fatal error. Settling in, trying to calm down, not push the limits too much, and just finish the race. Okay, we just got to finish this race with a decent result compared to the last race where we got P13 when, once again, should have been in a pole position, and this race should have been in a pole position, but you live and you learn. And I think part of this too, why I have been fumbling these opportunities, is this is my first time doing these videos. I get a little bit of excitement, especially when I'm in a pole position with the camera in front of my face and get to post a video where I'm in pole, but maybe got to learn to calm the excitement, calm the nerves. And this is unfortunately the end of our race. We didn't even get to finish. Le Mans decided to kick me out of the race, and I had to restart it, so my game essentially crashed. And that was the end of our race, unfortunately. So unfortunately for me, I squandered 2 amazing opportunities where I was in essentially podium positions, or I qualified podium positions, and I just made too many mistakes in both races. But one of these days in the near future, I'm hoping to get a pole position in one of these daily races, and that'll be quite a victory. But if you have tuned in to this video, again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you would like to see more content, please subscribe and hit the like button for the video. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.